So before we get going, let me just thank Origin Hi-Fi Systems for loaning me these Vestias. This episode is powered by Origin Hi-Fi, and you should check them out when you come to Austin, Texas. And I appreciate their support. So let's start breaking it down. In the World Cup of bookshelf speakers, can France put up a point against England? Let's find out. I feel like a real newsman. How you doing? I'm Bob, and you are in the United States of analog. And you could encourage me to keep doing more videos by liking the videos that I do and subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and even leaving comments below, even constructive criticism, because I need the help. I'm new to this space. I'm a youngster. I'm a youngster on YouTube, but not on planet Earth. I've been doing life for a while now, and I've been collecting audio gear for a while, since the early 70s, and even sold some stereo gear in the mid 70s. You know, all that good Marantz, Kenwood, Pioneer. Let's get to it. Let's talk about the LS50 Mettas from KEF. Now, Bob, you're saying to yourself, or maybe out loud, this is supposed to be a review of the Focal Vestias numero uno, number one. And it will be, at least my take on it. But right now I kind of want to set a baseline, because when the Mettas were released in the fall of 2022, they were the darling of the audiophile world. That's what I perceived. Online reviewers were tripping over themselves, singing the praises, Meta, 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 award, speaker of the year, all that stuff. This magical meta material that fixed the LS50s from the previous generation and made everybody forget those, and everybody wants the new meta material. I have to admit, I took the bait. I bought a pair. You know, for a long time, those were my reference bookshelf speakers, and my reference speakers in general, until I got my Klipsch Fortes about a year and a half ago. And really nothing for me, at least in my home, compares to that experience. But the KEFs were a pretty decent speaker, but like the reviewers, they've kind of fallen out of favor with me in my home. I've been switching them out more with other speakers in my arsenal, and I don't know if I'm taking cues from the reviewers, or maybe I'm not hearing the magic that I once did with the Mettas. But I still love the form factor. I love those concentric drivers. I love the detail that they provide in the music. I think they're going to be with me for a long time. But again, I'm swapping them out with other suitors like the 600M Generation 1, any number of ELAC speakers that I have lying around, 6.2s, 5.2s. I've even got a pair of JM Labs Chorus 706 from the 90s that I still have, and that's actually JM Labs, as you know, probably, became Focal eventually. But the KEFs at $1,500 now seem a little overpriced to me. And that's where I started getting interested in the Focal Vestia #1 bookshelves at around $1,200, and wondering if they could take on and even beat the Mettas. That's right, it's France against England. Now, the Vestias feature a Focal exclusive 6.5-inch woofer that is made of something called slate fiber, which is carbon fiber and polymer, and there's an inverted dome 1-inch M-shaped TAM alloy tweeter, TAM or TAM, I'm not sure. They boast 56 hertz to 30 kilohertz. The M shape of the tweeter is supposed to add rigidity and reduce distortion and produce a wider sound diffusion angle. And there's also a front firing port. The #1s come in light wood. They come in a gloss black and a darker wood finish. I would call the light wood, which I received thanks to the good graces of Origin Hi-Fi, I would call that white. You can see a lot of the grain in there. Each speaker has matching leather material that wraps the front and back, and I believe the bottom and the top as well. It just kind of winds around. And I'm not sure, it's not clear if that's actual leather or leatherette or bonded leather or whatever. It's kind of a thin leather, but the grain in the wood veneer and the grain in the leather are nicely pronounced. And there's a single set of, I guess, 4-way, 5-way binding posts. Is it 4-way binding post or 5-way binding post? I'm going to say 4-way binding posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, Anyway, see, I'm new to this game, but I always use banana plugs anyway. So for me, they could be one-way binding posts for that matter. The speakers are built in France, as you know, at the Focal workshop, and that's kind of cool, right? Yeah. So my reference pair came in light wood. Not usually my preference. White speakers are not my preference in general. I have a separate home theater set up in my listening room. Not this room, but the room upstairs. And I like to keep the equipment and the walls and everything as black as possible to make that picture pop. But yeah, they got a nice look. I mean, the white kind of grew on me. They got these rounded edges, which I don't know. I mean, I could take or leave that. I'm used to traditional bookshelf speak. Well, I say that, but the Bettas are pretty shapely themselves. The rectangular metal grills didn't make any sense to me at all with the rounded corners. I'm not a grill kind of guy anyway. I'm kind of a shower, not a grower, or whatever they say. I'm kind of a shower. I like to show my speakers off. So the grills went back in the box, and I think that if I owned these speakers, I think that's pretty much where they would stay. The sensitivity is 89.5, which isn't too shabby. And they have a power rating of 25 to 120 watts, 8 ohm speakers. All these numbers made them a pretty good match for my two reference amps I have here at the house. The Detail Monster Techniques SUG 700, 70 watt digital, and a warmer 100 watt aside Macintosh MA252 hybrid, both of which I own and enjoy. Both integrated, as I said. I also had a name Unity Atom on loan to run the Focals on. So I put the Focals on a heavy 21-inch Kanto stand, which Andrew Robinson recommended to me. And that put the tweeters right about ear level at my seating position. I placed the back of the speakers about 18 inches from the front wall. I started first with the Techniques pairing. That's my favorite go-to amp right now, at least of the ones that I own. It's clear as a bell. All the detail I hoped for was coming through the Vestias. Maybe just on the inside edge of bright, you know, for my liking. And that was with the speakers facing straight at my shoulders on axis. I turned them straight into the room, but it didn't do the Vestias any favors as I was losing some of that focus and that center image that I was looking for. So I finally settled on about a 15-degree toe-in, somewhere between 10 and 15 degrees, and that just did the trick for me. It made the Vestias disappear, and it really dialed in the center focus, and that's where I left the Vestias for the rest of my sessions with all the amplifiers I was using. They just really disappeared into the room. Now, the Mac was only connected for a short period of time, and that wasn't the Focal's fault. It's just too warm and lacking excitement for me, and I didn't think they represented the Vestias as good as they might. And I considered the Mac maybe for all-day, non-fatiguing background listening, jazz, classical, something like that. But neither the Mac nor the Vestias were offended or embarrassed in this setup. There was just a loss of detail and excitement, and they just didn't play well together, in my opinion. But then the Vestias found its new British friend, namely the Unity Atom, which I had on loan at 40 watts AB. I got all that AB warmth, right? It was the best of both worlds. All that high-end detail, all that warmth, all that punch that I was getting with the Unity Atom, and you can see my kind of mini review of the Unity Atom here on my channel. But yeah, it had that organic AB warmth, and the Focals were punching harder than they did with the Mac. Soundstage got wider. The sound was not as thin as the Bettas, but just as clear. They just hit harder, and they were more live sounding, almost like a smaller version of my Fortes. And when I added my ELAC 3010 app-controlled sub, that helped the live feel. So the number ones were absolutely fantastic with that setup, and they could be a suitable replacement for the Bettas. But the Klipsch form factor is tough to part with, and the Vestias, combined with both the name and the techniques, absolutely crushed all comers in center image, and especially what I was really impressed with was that depth, that center depth, that spatial depth. The sound coming perceivably behind the speakers, which is something that I always shoot for, always want, I crave, but I don't always get it in my setup or in equipment that I listen to. Yeah, I was getting that depth of sound in spades with the Vestias. I think it was one of their better virtues, one of their best virtues. But again, great center image, great sound stage, a little bit of height, not a whole lot of height, but a little bit of height. And it had me wanting to listen to more music. They were not fatiguing at all. Again, just inside the border of bright. I'll credit the unique M-shaped driver for a lot of those virtues. It could be the trickle-down effect from its pricier siblings, but it's the depth of sound that really grabbed me. And remember, keep the grills in the box. You'll be glad you did. They don't need them. They look fine on their own. They have an ordinary look, but they produce an extraordinary sound. We're talking about the Focal Vestias from France, the number ones, the numero unos as they're known, south of the border. Yeah, I think for their size and their price, they could be a KEF LS50 Meta killer, and we'll give France the point. The point. It's at least a tie. The Metas and the Focals each get a point, but I don't know. Maybe the Focals take 3 points on this one. What are your favorite bookshelf speakers? What country do you think produces the best gear overall? Comment below, and I'll see you next time on the United States of Analog.